after some discussion with the board treasurer, I felt like it would be something that everybody would want to hear about and have input on, because this has been something that we've talked about for quite some time. And also it has been sort of like a town-wide discussion. So the very talented DPW director and building inspector have taken the lead on finding contractors to work on our siding. They received estimates from 2 different contractors, which I had sent those along in your meeting packet. The first estimate was, let me just get the figure correct, $6,200. And then, of course, there is the possibility that there could be additional items that come up along the way. And so it is billed at $55 per man per hour, plus cost of materials. That was from RT Corp. And the second estimate was from Woody's Carpentry and Restoration at $8,200. And I didn't have an additional figure per man per hour, but the DPW director and building inspector recommended the lower estimate. They were the ones who actually met with the contractors and took a tour of the building. I was not able to meet with them when they were here. And I have all the confidence that they went through all of the different issues that we were having out there. I have looked at the siding many times, so I'm more than happy to answer any questions about the quotes, but I would also recommend that we go with the DPW director and building inspector's recommendation. That was the word I was looking for, of RT Corp as well.
Have they worked with either of these contractors in the past?
That I do not know. That is not something that they had mentioned. When I asked about the companies themselves, they did mention they're both very professional and they both believed that the work could be done by both companies. There was a third company that they had asked for an estimate, but that company decided not to submit.
Okay.
Well, that was very helpful for both of them to get involved, since they have much more expertise in that area than any of us, really.
Yes, I'm very grateful for the input.
Did they volunteer to do that, or was it through the town moderator and the town? You're off the board and you forget. Chris Carter. Was it? Did he have any administrator? Did he have? Yeah.
I think this was before Chris's time, actually. This was when Jan was on leave, and I believe it was when Nancy was interim administrator, okay. Because this sort of started to gain a lot of traction as far as discussion goes around budget committee season back in January, February. So,
yeah. Okay.
Did they indicate when they might be able to begin the repairs?
So they were actually gung-ho to begin, I'll check the date here, Monday the 6th, which was this past Monday, and they are ready to go whenever approved. So they are very willing to do it. I think this is also the perfect season to do it with relatively good weather. And also we still have some traffic coming in and out of our doors, but since we are not open our regular hours yet, this gives us some time to have that front entryway, impeded a little bit if work is being done there.
Okay.
I have another question. Is this because of the problems of the original contract, or is it the wear and tear of time in the buildings, or is it a combination of both, or is that something that nobody wants to say?
So it is a combination of both from what I understand. So for example, there is definitely wear and tear as far as, seasons here in New England are difficult, and there's a lot of fluctuation in temperature. And so, after 5 years of no work being done on the siding, you start to see that wear. Another thing that the building inspector did mention is where some of the cuts were made on certain products that are used for the siding, the hardy board, I believe it's called. It was cut on the edge that was not sealed, which I know there's a technical term for that, but in essence, it exposed the product more than a sealed edge would. So I think
So
that's
this
the
is
best
going
way
to
to describe it.
continue, I would assume, right?
Yes, in some areas, I anticipate this will become like a yearly checkup we'll want to do. And I noted that in my report that I already have it in my calendar for early next
Yes.
year, preferably before budget season, to have the
Yeah,
building
no,
inspector and
no, I
DPW
thought, yeah,
just take a walk.
I thought that was a good idea. I was just hoping, since these two guys got involved with this, could we continue trying to get their involvement?
I hope so, yes.
Yeah.
And it still technically is a town building, so I would hope that their involvement would continue.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. I don't know if this is the time to ask it, but I had printed down the estimate from RT Corporation and took a ride over to the library this morning and kind of walked around. And I noticed some of the issues you had brought up, in particular, the front door where they, I guess, when they rest their bikes against the wall, there's quite a bit of damage on the shingles at the corners. I'm assuming that's what they're going to replace. I don't know if they're going to replace the whole line of shingles or just the corner shingles. That's where they were broken. And related to that, the bike racks are way off to the side. Can those be moved closer to the front entrance? Because I'm sure if someone saw the bike rack, they would be more apt to use it. Those are pretty far removed from the entrance. And yet, and on top of that, those are on the opposite side, because when you're coming in through the driveway, you don't even pass them.
Yes, and so we have the two bike racks, the one on the west side of the building. I had to think about that for a minute, which is much farther down in the parking lot. And then the one, if you're standing at the front entrance, it's on the right side there.
Yeah, I didn't see the other one. I only saw the one on the right side.
It's so far down, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we could get some type of movable bike rack. We had also even discussed having some sort of like cubbies installed somewhere in the library, so that if those who had the small outdoor equipment like scooters, I'm trying to think of skateboards, scooters or skateboards, then that they'd be able to put those in the cubbies there. So it's definitely a thought about whether we want to get another bike rack or something to hold that there.
To your point about the weather, some of the shingles, the two pillars at the front entrance, the one on the right at the very bottom, those shingles are very bowed. I don't know if that's included in the quote, but those definitely would have to be replaced. I don't think they can nail those back down. Those are, because of the shape of that pillar, it's curved, it's not straight down. I think the water probably accumulates a little bit at the bottom.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's part of it.
I'll make sure that they note those two, because I know the shingles mentioned are near the patio surface. So that's the ones like mostly along the bottom row. And also the shingles, if you're standing at the front doors on the left side, it's behind a table right now that we have outside for porch pickup. You'll see like scrapes and drags on those shingles. So I think those are also being replaced as well, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the main areas.
Catherine, the damage to those, to the lower row of shingles, is that from bicycles or from skateboards?
So I think it's a little bit of both, because when I was thinking about this, when things are leaned up against the building, if it's a bicycle, the pedal may hit the lower shingles there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, or if somebody props a skateboard up, that could certainly be at a lower angle as well. So the signs outside have worked. We haven't had anybody leaning stuff up against the building as far as I know. And the library staff do know to let me know if something like that is happening, and I can mention it to those who have done so. One more thing, there was also some discussion about the bid threshold. So I have finally dug to the bottom of this. It took a little while, and I owe some thanks to the town clerk and also the DPW director, because they did most of the legwork. It came from the September 10th, 2018 town council meeting, and I had sent those minutes along to you all. And the figure in those minutes, let me just grab it from my pile here. The figure from those minutes is, I believe it was around 17,000 and something else. Let me just see here.
974.
Yep, yep. So those two figures are still as they stand. So those have not changed, and those are based upon the consumer price index.
So the idea is if somebody had agreed to do the work for less than that, you wouldn't have to go out to bid?
Correct. Yep. And typically the town, when I spoke to the DPW director about this, about getting certain bids and estimates, he had said, you know, they solicit from a couple companies and the lowest bidder is typically the one who gets the work.
I mean, that seems to be a good idea if it's even more than a couple $1,000s, because it's often hard to know, even just the two that we got. You know, you might think people are going to come in at $6,000, but it might be that nobody bids that low and they're all 10,000, you know? So I'm very glad at how the process played out, that we did in fact get several bids.
Yes, and I'm very appreciative to the department heads for that. That was really, really helpful. And I know there was also talk that this could potentially cost upward of 15,000. But the one thing I did want to mention is this is for all the visible work. So there could be certain things that are found underneath what was visible. So we do need to expect that. And I will keep you all updated if that does start to exceed this estimate.
How is payment being done? Is there a deposit, and was that toward the end of the project? Is there a final inspection before they get the final payment?
So we typically don't do deposits, so we probably will not do that right now.
Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I just want to, I know sometimes with contracts, usually you'll have a deposit, progress payment, and a final payment on inspection.
Yeah. And I will definitely have the building inspector and DPW director, either one of them or both of them, come over, do a walk around once the work is finished and make sure that there's no other areas that need to be done. And then they invoice us. And once we get the invoice, then we pay.
That's good.
Great.
And so this comes out of our FY21 budget, which hasn't actually been approved yet.
Correct. The estimates were received in fiscal year 20, but the work is being done and the invoice will be done in fiscal year 21. No budget has been approved yet, so I know that is probably you know, something we all want to think about. But as far as the work being done, it definitely needs to be done. So I think if it's something that we have to end up pulling from Bank Newport for, then that would be something that we would really want to do that.
But the hope would be that we would get money for maintenance of the building, as was discussed in January and February.
Yes, that is my hope. There was a budget committee meeting last night. I have not had a chance to watch that online yet, but I will certainly do so and see if there was any discussion about, you know, if what was discussed in January and February will be moving forward or how that will be working.
Any other comments or questions? Are we ready to take a vote?
I'll make a motion to approve the bid recommended by our department heads and our library director for $6,200 from RT Corporation.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I couldn't hear everybody, but I assume the motion passed?
Yes.
I
Yes.
saw the
It
hands.
was unanimous.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. I will let them know and hopefully they will be able to start next week.
Great.
Good.
Great. Thank you very much, Catherine.
You're welcome. Do you want to do a formal adjournment?
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
So moved. Yes.
Aye.
Thank you,
right.
everyone.
Till the
I appreciate it. Yes, 20th.
Okay. All right. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.